Live, presented by Kingsmark Cabinets, alongside Eagles great Seth Joyner with Everett Terry. I'm Scott Seidenberg, and before we hop into the Eagles' loss against the Lions and some other Week 3 NFL action, I want to remind you to share the episode because, guys, sharing is caring. And for every share that we get on this video, $1 will be donated to the Malcolm Jenkins Foundation. So be sure to share the show and leave your comments as well. We'll read the best comments on the air and answer your questions as well. I mentioned the Eagles lost to the Lions 27-24. Seth, apparently we're not calling face masks in the NFL anymore.
Well, there's a whole lot of things we're not calling. We're not calling face masks. We're not calling good plays. We're not catching good balls. There's a whole lot of cancer that's not going on right now. But, you know, this loss is particularly painful because, you know, a pattern is beginning to emerge here. You look at the Philadelphia Eagles, I think everyone knows that they've got a lot of talent. They're just not showing their talent, and they're not finding ways at the end of the game to win games. I know that they got a lot of guys that are unhealthy, a lot of things, a lot of moving parts right now. It's early in the season. Everybody's waiting for them to bounce back, but you're talking about 2 conference losses back-to-back games, you know, against the Falcons and then yesterday against the Lions, and they got to go to Lambeau in a couple of days. It's just a difficult road for them to hold, man. And I see a bunch of young guys who have been pressed into duty, you know, from Arcega-Whiteside to Mac Hollins, you know, right on down to Sam. As good as he's been playing, in my opinion, I believe that the Philadelphia Eagles organization and coaching staff is putting too much on this young kid's plate right now, where Jordan Howard is a guy who is proven, you know, in this league, and in my opinion, should be the lead dog. Now, I understand. You got running, you got passing things that you want to incorporate Miles Sanders too. But when it comes to running the football, you know, there's no question who the best running back at this point in time. And that's not a slight to Miles. He's going to learn. But as a rookie, you're putting a lot on his plate, in my opinion.
But Everett, how disappointing was the fumbles yesterday, the turnovers? At the half, Carson Wentz was the 3rd leading tackler on the Eagles team because of the turnovers.
So, listen, games are won and lost in the trenches and turnover battles. If you look at most games won and lost, it's usually those 2 components. The Eagles were losing the battle on both fronts, okay? It was no surprise that they didn't win this game. I mean, no Eagles fan probably had the Eagles at 1-2 coming after the Lions and the Falcons. Most people thought the Falcons was a pick 'em, but everybody expected them to beat the Lions because the Lions look kind of fraudulent. But that said, you've got guys on the field that are in positions where they're not being made to be successful, like a Miles Sanders. Listen, I agree. We talked last week about Jordan Howard should touch the ball a lot. I don't know what the problem is. I don't know if Doug Peterson just doesn't like him. I don't know what it is, because every time he touches the ball, he's making positive plays. He's falling forward. He's getting an extra yard. He's not taking a lot of tackles for loss. Is he the best guy out of backfield hands? No. But he does so many other things well, including blocking schemes and things like that, and they're not utilizing him at all. I don't know what they traded for him for if they're not going to use him. The other problem is, and we're going to go back to Seth's favorite guy, Nelson Aguilar. Mr. I want to drop the ball. Listen, the touchdown, you know, it's a nice effort play. Okay, cool. But that's only because of the fact that he cost them 2 possessions. The first one was when he dropped the ball on 3rd down. It cost him a possession. And then the other one is when he had the fumble. You take negative plays as a football team. You only get a limited amount of possessions in a game. You're taking drives and killing them. Listen, and I said this, and I was arguing with people on social media about this yesterday. You can't name me 4 effort plays that Nelson Aguilar has done in the 4 years he's been here, but I can name you at least double negative plays he's given the Eagles in the time he's been here, and that's why I said this kid is not as good as people think.
Well, his touchdown was an effort play.
It was.
You know,
that's one of his 4.
So in my opinion, you know, it a lot of times it goes deeper than, you know, what meets the eye. You know, we already know that that Nelson can be fragile. We've been through this before with him. You know. So I think at the end of the day, what you really have to look at when you're talking about him, you know, is he slipping back into, is he regressing into that situation that he was in before? And, you know, everyone has to have a plan for how you deal with that. I'm of the opinion, and I'm of the firm belief, and I know it to be factual, if you're going to be a successful, you know, pro football player, your mindset has to be that you're the best that there is. Now, it might not be factual on the outside, but what you tell yourself on the inside and what you embody on the inside, that's what it has to be. And when I look at Nelson, I see a guy that wants to say all the right things. I see a guy that wants to do all the right things. I see a guy that's contrite. And my thing is, man, to hell with that. Okay? If there's some dog in you, let it loose. Because that's what the game is really all about. because you can't be successful without confidence in this game. And I see his confidence, it wavers. It wavers. You know, I mean, there are plays where he's able to make the play. The catch is there to be made, okay, but you're trying to do too much. Sometimes you're trying to do too much because you know the heat is bearing down on you and you got to take that hit. And then other times, you're just trying to do too much. You're trying to run with the ball and catch it all at the same time. It's called hand-eye coordination for a reason, because you're supposed to look the ball in, put it away, now make your move. Whatever that move is, whether it's getting down, laying down, running out of bounds, making a touchdown, whatever it is, the first thing you got to do is secure the ball. So now, what do the Philadelphia Eagles got to do? They got to figure out how they can get him psychologically and mentally back where they need to be, because we can sit here and beat him up all you want to, but D-Jax ain't coming back for a while.
2 weeks,
okay?
at least.
And Alshon, even if he comes back, he ain't going to be 100%.
Fair.
So we're going to need the production. Nelly has had 11 targets last week and 12 this week. And those numbers ain't going down because they're going to keep on doubling Zach Ertz.
Well, I understand that game flow is going to dictate what you do on offense, but with the depth concerns at the wide receiver position, with Jackson going to be out for a while, because it's a Thursday night game, you might not have Alshon Jeffrey. And you're right, even if he does come back, he's not going to be 100%. Why not get Jordan Howard involved more? Why not get Sproles involved more? Why not put the onus on the rushing attack in order to take the pressure off of these guys?
Hey, listen, man, you preaching to the choir, because you know last week, you know, I did some statistics work, and Doug Peterson's always talking about how we got to get off to a fast start. Okay, the previous 2 games, the Washington and the Atlanta game, okay, they averaged 5 possessions in the first half of the game. Okay, they averaged 33.5 plays per half in that first half. Okay, 24 passes, 24.5 passes, 9 runs on average. That means they're running the ball, they're throwing the ball at a 73% clip. 73% of the time they're throwing the football. Okay, and then you're wondering why your quarterback is battered and beat up, why the running game can't find its footing, because it's not that we can't run the ball. It's not that we couldn't run the ball last year. I don't buy that. What we don't do is we don't commit to the run long enough. We don't give the offensive line an opportunity to get into the flow of the game, because dropping back and blocking 73% of the time, that's a passive move by an offensive lineman. Because what is he doing? They're kicking, trying to figure out where guys are, and they're trying to protect. Where an aggressive move is when I line up, I put my hand in the dirt, and I bring it up and punch you in the mouth, and we run for 5-6 yards every single time. So now, once I've demoralized you, now we can move back and I can go play action. Now my guys can sit back and they can protect and give Carson a clean pocket. Carson's going to get beat up just as long as we keep throwing the ball 73% of the time. And I haven't even gone back and looked at yesterday's 5 possessions to see how many times they threw it and how many times they ran.
And the strength of this Eagles offense, Everett, is that RPO. But when you take the R out of the option, defenses know what's going on. Akil Garner sends in a question, as you mentioned before, what's the deal with the lack of carries for Jordan Howard?
Well, even if you go back to it, it speaks to Seth's point. I think it's Doug Peterson wants to try to outsmart everybody. And he doesn't know how to adjust his philosophy. It's surprising. I think if you want to go back a little step further, I think losing Frank Reich, losing DeFilippo matters, because now what you're starting to see, if you look at what Frank Reich's done in Indianapolis with Jacoby Brissett after losing his franchise quarterback, what is he doing? Brissett hasn't thrown the ball 40 times in any game. He's handing the ball off. He's letting Marlon Mack run. That's what he did when he was here. Jay Ajayi, LeGarrette Blount, these guys were running the football. And Doug Peterson just wants to pass. Groh wants to pass. And the problem is, you look at the Eagles having these slow starts. They're one of the worst teams in terms of points in the first half in the NFL over the last few years. They don't put enough points on the board in the first half, and they're playing almost from behind almost every time.
Well, you have to understand what their philosophy is. Their offensive philosophy is, we want to throw early and get a lead. And then we want to, get in our 4-minute offense, and run the clock out. That all sounds fine and dandy, because every game within itself is a different situation. It's a different game, okay? So you might have a team where you can do that against. A team that's ranked 30th or 31st against the pass, who ain't got no pass rushers, that works.
Yep.
Okay, but when you're playing against a team that's got halfway decent pass rushers, and that doesn't work, then what do you do? Do you throw it even more?
And how about not start off with a special teams touchdown?
Yeah, or at some point, are you going to make the decision and say to yourself, you know what, this isn't working. Let's establish the running game. which is going to establish play action pass, which is going to allow Carson extra time in the pocket. So when we want to pass, when we want to throw the ball, all the elements are perfect for us to be able to throw the ball without our $35 million quarterback being under duress all the time.
There was
people are talking about, oh, you know, Carson, you know, a couple of long passes are short. Every single pass beyond 25 yards is contested. He's under pressure.
Yeah.
So how can he have the accuracy to actually step into the ball and throw it with any accuracy deep?
And the problem is also, when you mention him being under duress, it leads to not just inaccurate throws, but missed opportunities. There was a play in the second half yesterday where Miles Sanders broke off of his route on the scramble drill and would have walked into the end zone from about 40, 50 yards out, but Carson didn't hit him because he's under duress and because he didn't stand in the pocket long enough to see Sanders break off his route. That's a problem with this Eagles offensive line, is not able to protect him for long enough for those routes to develop.
Well, but let me tell you something. If you throw the ball with the frequency that they throw it with, I mean, from a defensive guy's perspective, okay, as a linebacker, I'm a hybrid. I'm half defensive lineman, I'm half defensive back, okay? So I've got communication going on with my big guys up front, and I got communication going on with my little guys on the backside, okay? So in the run game, if we're playing a team and we come out and they're committed 100% to throwing the ball every down, I'm going to my big dogs, hey, bring your ears back, go get them, I got you. If they run the ball, we're going to play the run on the way to the quarterback. Go get the quarterback, and I'll cover the run, okay? That's the situation that Doug Peterson puts this quarterback in when he goes pass heavy, because guys are not going to honor the fact that you're running the ball until you actually do it.
Now let me ask you this. How much of it is attributed to the fact that Peters goes out with illness? You got Dillard who gets hurt. We already know Sam Oliver was looking like dumpster juice last week. I mean, at what point is it maybe the offensive line just isn't good enough for them to be dropping back and throwing the ball as much as they are? Because, I mean, granted, Carson does hold the ball too long. The guys can't get separation. That's fair, so some of that falls to the receivers. But if the O-line can't protect for 3 seconds, even if he is on a short drop, it doesn't make a difference. I mean, he's literally running for his life almost every time in the pocket, and that has to fall on the offensive line. You got Kelsey walking to the wrong bench. Concussion, we don't know, he's playing through it. I mean, there's a lot of problems with health on this offensive line, and that all matters because you need this line to be healthy in order for them to be formidable to give them a shot.
There's no doubt about it, you know, but there's a way to help. I mean, listen, the player's job is to execute. The coach's job is to put the players in the best possible position for them to succeed, okay? And sometimes, you know, when you're running the ball, when you're not running the ball with enough efficiency and enough effectiveness and you're not committed to it, you're not putting your offensive line in the best position, okay? I just know, man, there's no way in the world you can ask a guy to backpedal all day long against a guy that's running full speed at him and you expect for him to win those battles, especially in predictable situations. You know, it's one thing if they shut down, if the other team shuts down the run and puts you in a predictable situation. As a defensive player, that was always our first thing. We're going to shut down the run, put them in a predictable passing situation. They know they can't run. We know they can't run. We know the only thing they can do is throw the ball. Big dogs, go get them, okay? But when you do it to yourself, come on, man. That's like
predictable offense, man.
This is a team that has Super Bowl aspirations. You're watching Hit 'em High live from Parks Casino, brought to you by Kingsmark Cabinets with Seth Joyner, Everett Terry. I'm Scott Seidenberg. Remember, share the episode because sharing is caring. We will donate $1 for every share. It's going to go directly to the Malcolm Jenkins Foundation. So for every share out there, $1 will be donated to a great cause. So be sure to share the episode and leave your comments as well. We have a comment from Kennedy Corbett that says they need to stay with one main running back for the majority of the game. We also have a question from Tony Nacarado who asks, why does it seem so hard for the coaching staff to, quote, figure it out? Because they seemed to do so during their Super Bowl run, but now it's not happening as easy as it came to them when they did make that run.
Well, you know, sometimes, you know, the NFL is kind of like a dinosaur league sometimes. You know, it's hard for them to change, man. And, you know, you got these analytics that are, you know, involved in the game now, and the analytics are telling coaches, you know, what the probabilities are of running certain plays or doing certain things, you know. And hey, listen, I mean, they're there are so-called gurus and experts, that I get into it on Twitter with all the time. That oh, you're the dinosaur. You think running the football, that's old school. It doesn't work that way anymore. Now you should be throwing the ball 3-1. And I'm like, if you got Tom Brady, if you got Drew Brees, if you got Philip Rivers, you got Mahomes, yeah, go ahead and throw it 3-1. Because you know what, those guys are so smart, so good that they know where to go with the ball before they ask for it from the center. Okay, but the majority of quarterbacks in this league, they still need a running game. They still need play action pass. And I don't care what the analytics say, and I don't care what you say about this being just a passing league. And what I'm saying, I'm living in in the dark ages. Hey, it just doesn't work that way, man.
To piggyback that last point about the running game staying with one back, listen, it's clear that the Eagles are committed to trying to make Miles Sanders a feature back. I get it. We talked about this before, Seth, where we say, hey, maybe it's because of the fact they don't want to re-up Jordan Howard, so they don't want to overplay him. But my thing is, listen, the kid comes, puts the ball in the dirt twice in the same drive, and they go right back to him. At some point, listen, you've seen Bill Belichick coming with rookies. They make a mistake. He pulls them for the game. You let this kid come out and keep playing.
It's a different age. I mean, he came right back in
right
the
to him.
Second series and then fumbled again. And they still played him. I'm like, there's no way, man. That guy needs to go sit down over here, get some Gatorade and chill for a minute.
Right.
Get himself together. On that note, Hit 'em High is brought to you by Kingsmart Cabinets, your go-to team for kitchen and bathroom remodeling, custom cabinetry, custom service fit for a king. Visit them at kingsmartcabinet.com or follow them at Kingsmart on Facebook or Instagram. And stay tuned later on for the Kingsmart Cabinet keys to a Packers win. To an Eagles win over the Packers, that is.
Listen, I said last week that if the Eagles lost this game, that there was no way on God's good green earth that they were going to win this division. In fact, they were going to lose this division by 2 games because the Cowboys are rolling. They're steamrolling. Dak looks like a better quarterback than Carson Wentz. He definitely should be paid more than Carson Wentz. And if you look at how they're moving with offense and their fluidity, Kellen Moore's done a great job in terms of getting the ball in the right hands, making sure that he's calling plays that are putting Dak in positions to win. You don't see that with the Eagles, and that's the difference. The young, innovative mind comes in with fresh plays, getting these guys. Listen, Amari Cooper clearly looks like the best wide receiver in this division. You got Ezekiel Elliott looking like the best running back in this division. You got Dak Prescott looking like the best quarterback in this division. And the Cowboys look like they have the best defense in this division. All of that says to me the Eagles are going to have a hard time winning this division. It's clear to me.
And that's something that, of course, fans are concerned with, not just the division, but also what the Eagles are doing defensively. And keep sending your comments in. We have a question from Akil Garner. Is it scheme or player decision to play cornerbacks 10 to 12 yards off of opposing wide receivers? That's something Seth's going to break down in today's whiteboard work.
Well, I've got 2 different scenarios that I want to break down here. One, I got zone coverage on this side of the ball, and I'm going to kind of defend the cornerbacks here because we got cover 3 to this side. Cover 3 means that this corner's got a deep third, free safety's got a deep third, this corner over here has got a deep third, and we're going to play 4 underneath zone, okay? So one of the situations that we saw yesterday, okay, this corner is almost in the bail. He's getting out of there because he's got this third of the field. And this wide receiver ran a deep 15-yard dig, a deep out back here, okay? Malcolm Jenkins, love the guy, love what he brings to the table. But yesterday, they get him up around the line for the running game, and because he's not really paying attention back here to what's going on with the quarterback, you get this play action pass, this play action right here, and he kind of gets frozen, okay? He's a flat player. He's an underneath guy. He's a hook guy. He's a hook guy. He's a flat guy on the other side, okay? So this guy, he kind of freezes for a second. The tight end releases and goes to the flat, and Malcolm kind of hangs right here. Now this corner's getting out of here because he's got a deep third. So when this guy runs this 15-yard out, everybody's looking at this cornerback right here and asking themselves, what is this cornerback doing? Okay, in reality, the minute that Malcolm reads this tight end release, because this is his key, he's got to get depth and get out underneath this route and make the quarterback throw to this underneath route and break up on it from deep to short. Okay, you see this happen a lot because that guy is the guy. This corner is the guy that's actually making the tackle, but Malcolm is the guy that's got to be the guy to get out underneath that and break that up. Second, to our point over here talking about man-to-man coverage. Why are the Eagles struggling in man-to-man coverage so much? Because when you predictably line up 7 yards off a wide receiver in man coverage, or you predictably line up all the time at 5 yards in man coverage, you create too much space. Way too much space for coverage. Because when this guy releases and you're backing up instead of coming forward, you create a two-way go. And you see our cornerbacks, they seem like they're always guessing and they're always getting turned around because they never come up to a guy, jam him on the inside, make him release outside, and then turn and get in his back pocket and run with him. You never see our guys get up here. Even when they're up, they'll jam with one hand and retreat. No. You want to make that guy go a defined way. So I want to get up. I want to take away the inside. So I know that he has the release outside. Now when you have a defined release, it's a lot easier to cover that guy. Ronald Darby can run with any wide receiver in the NFL if they play him in man coverage like this. If they coach him to look at just this guy instead of trying to play man coverage by seeing the quarterback and the wide receiver. I promise you, I played enough man coverage in my life before. When I'm covering this guy and I'm in his back hip, if that ball is coming, his eyes are going to be as big as saucers. I promise you. That's when you turn and that's when you play the ball. But trying to see the quarterback and cover a guy man-to-man doesn't work in this league. These are the reasons why in the passing game the Eagles have been struggling the last couple of weeks and they got to get it fixed. Guys.
So definitely understanding that point that Seth just made, that brings me to my Ronald Darby point. Listen, I get that Ronald Darby has speed, but I've noticed so many things technically wrong with, like you said, turning his inside hip, giving away position, that he can't recover with his speed, which brings me to why not go trade for Jalen Ramsey? Shut down, elite corner, and it's leaps and bounds better than everybody else. You take him, you plug him in, he instantly adds an upgrade to where you don't even have to throw to his side. Now you allow Malcolm to be able to cheat off and play differently. And it doesn't necessarily hurt the defense as much than playing with a guy who's always considered to be out of position. I have yet to see Ronald Darby not get cooked. I'm waiting for a week where he shows up and doesn't get burnt.
Okay, is that the fix for this Eagles defense?
I'm gonna say this because, and I hope that we can document this show. Because Ronald Darby is going to leave the Philadelphia Eagles after this year, and he's going to go somewhere and get the proper coaching, okay? And he's going to turn into an elite level cornerback, okay? Listen, it's all about coaching. It's all about technique. Name me a single defensive back that the Eagles have drafted, let alone signed, and been able to develop their skill sets.
Lito.
That's
Lito came
20 years ago, man.
You asked for one, I gave you one. First one my mom was Lito. Lito came in and was great. But Shelton was good too.
But you proved my point. That was like 3 coaching staffs ago.
Fair.
And that was almost 20 years ago, okay? So that's my whole point. These guys have got to get the proper coaching. Now, let's address this Jalen Ramsey thing. Everybody seems to think that, it's an easy fix if you go and you bring in a corner and say, okay, he's going to shut down 1/3 of the field and we can roll corner. We don't do that now. Okay, we are not, you don't go and bring in one player and change your entire defensive scheme that you've been practicing through OTAs and training camp and preseason that you've been running for the last 3 years. They don't have that in their package to do that. And they're not going to all of a sudden just change. That's the first issue. The second issue is, okay, Jalen Ramsey stood up and said, you know what, all I want to do is win. Bleep, man, first of all, respect the game and respect your craft enough not to be cussing on national TV. That's the first thing. If all you really wanted to do was win, okay, why you showing up at training camp in a Brinks truck?
I got a comeback for that.
He is selfish, man. And
so Deion wasn't selfish? He's arguably the greatest corner ever?
Hey, but Deion didn't act that way.
Yeah.
Deion
was
didn't act
super
that
flashy.
way.
He showed up with gold around his neck.
I'm not talking is one thing.
Nobody was doing it.
No one's talking about
Nobody was doing it.
Talking about Flash.
But nobody was doing it back
Who
then.
is talking about Flash?
Deion was a me guy and showed it on the field.
Deion was a team guy, okay? as much as Deion was a me guy, Deion was a team guy. That's why Deion won, a bunch of Super Bowls with various teams.
And Deion wasn't calling into practice sick, which is what Jalen Ramsey did.
He don't want to be there anymore.
Hey,
he sees guys leaving teams they don't want to play for.
If you understand Howie Roseman and this Philadelphia Eagle organization, this flies in the face of everything that they do from a cultural perspective. You don't bring in a me guy on a team where all these guys talk about is us. And if you think for one reason, you think about how smart players are now, okay? For him to stand up in front of the media and talk about how all I want to do is win and how hard I work and blah, 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 blah. Listen, he's trying to snow everybody the same way that Antonio Brown tried to snow everybody. Because you want to know something? Let me ask you a question. Do you really believe that when Jalen Ramsey gets traded from the Jacksonville Jaguars sometime this week, because he probably will because he said he called in this morning, okay? When he gets traded, do you think he's going to act any different than he's acting right now?
Where's he going?
Doesn't matter where he goes.
It does.
Doesn't matter where.
If you send him to the Miami Dolphins, he's going to have a different mindset than if you send him to the New England Patriots.
Let's talk about his wants. He wants to be paid
as he should,
the highest paid,
as he should.
When it's your time.
Okay, he's at the end of his contract. He should be paid
when it's your time.
Okay.
First of all, second of all, okay. He wants to be a shutdown corner. A shutdown corner. You understand what I'm saying? He wants to be a shutdown corner. He wants to be that guy that just follows the best receiver wherever he goes and say to that guy, okay, I locked him down, okay? What if that's not your defensive philosophy? Wherever he goes, what if that's not their defensive philosophy? That's one of the reasons he wants out of Jacksonville right now, because they play too much zone coverage. The Philadelphia Eagles are a zone team. Why would you bring a guy? Haven't we seen that before?
Listen,
we bring a man guy and turn him into a zone corner. Why would you do that?
Listen, they had a Samuel, Asante Samuel here. He's a guy who played great off his own. But you know what they did? They found schemes with coordinators that could utilize his talent. What you do when you have a coach that can't utilize the talent you get around him, you get a coach that will. I remember when Jim Schwartz first got here, everybody wanted to say he's going to be the head coach. Now all of a sudden they want to get rid of him.
You make those moves in the offseason.
But you're not going to be able to get Ramsey during the offseason.
I don't think there's any denying that wherever Jalen Ramsey goes, the same problems are going to exist because he's still going to have that same attitude, regardless if he's playing for Bill Belichick or the Patriots.
He wants to be the next
with Antonio Brown as well.
He wants to be.
He's his mentor.
He wants to be the next Deion, and he's willing to do anything in his mind that he thinks is necessary to make that happen. And it's going to be more detrimental to a team that's built on us than it is a team that's built on me.
Coaches want to coach. They don't want to deal with distractions.
Fair.
Let's go around the NFL. Some of the highlights that we saw yesterday in Week 3 Sunday. Danny Dimes Jones is legit for the New York Football Giants. They have apparently after Week 1, or after 1 week starting, found their franchise quarterback.
Dave Gettleman doesn't look like the dumbest guy in the room anymore for taking him where he took him. Listen, the kid came out and flat out played. They were down 3 touchdowns to a Tampa Bay team that, was playing for survival at that point. You thought they had the game won. He managed to literally put 4 touchdowns. He's responsible for 4 touchdowns. If you want to look at his metrics, second best, debut of a QB coming in with his first NFL start ever in terms of what he did on the field. That's huge. And what that literally did, if you noticed right after the game, Eli walked up to him, gave him the smile, and said, listen, congrats, kid. This is your team now. I think Eli realizes at the end the kid came out, he played, and he did it without Saquon. Listen, if you're a Giants fan, you're elated that this kid did that because now you feel like there might be hope at the end of this tunnel.
What he brings to this team is athleticism at the quarterback position. Eli Manning is a statue. And I saw an overlay, and credit to whoever did it online because it was fantastic. The Eli Manning rollout off the goal line where he got stopped and on 4th down and didn't get into the end zone versus Daniel Jones running into the end zone yesterday. That's the difference he brings to this Giants offense.
It is a major difference. A quarterback who has the ability to move and create on the move, that's the new NFL. The day of the pocket passer is dying really quick, because pass rushes and blitz schemes and things of that nature are going to require you to be able to manipulate the pocket and understand when you got zone coverage, you're going to scramble to throw the ball, and when you got man coverage, you're going to scramble to take off and make yards because when guys are man-to-man downfield, their eyes aren't on the quarterback. The safety, single high or whether it's too high, he sees you, but he's about 30 yards down the field because he's trying to keep everything in front of him. So when that quarterback takes off, he's going to get 15 to 20 yards before the defense can react to him.
That's how you got the open touchdown run.
But listen, man, I always like to pump my brakes, man, because
it's one game.
Yeah.
Are the Tampa Bay is the Tampa Bay defense an elite defense?
They played like it through the first 2 weeks.
It's top half of the NFL.
We know Todd Bowles can't be a head coach,
right.
but he's
a good defensive coordinator.
Well, elite from the standpoint of
they held Christian McCaffrey to 53 total yards.
Elite defensive coordinator.
Yes.
I won't call them an elite defense from the standpoint of players that they have. Mm-hmm. His scheme and his ability, to put pressure on quarterbacks. Yes, but like I see around the NFL all the time, if you don't keep the quarterback in the pocket, if you don't have a plan to keep a guy in the pocket, they must not have known the athleticism that he possessed. Because from what I saw, he was just moving the pocket, scrambling, moving around. I mean, listen, you got to keep a quarterback that has the ability to run. You got to be able to bring pressure up the middle and keep him in the pocket and make him operate from the pocket.
There's no excuse for that 4th and 5.
It was like the Red Sea part
exactly.
out. The real quick, I heard that he was so athletic. He actually played basketball on a team that was coached by Jay Billis, and Jay Billis had him at 6'5" with a broken right hand, defending all the best players from all the guys, and some of them are actually in the NBA. Like, that's how good this kid is in terms of athleticism. That's not something you hear every day from a quarterback. So, I mean, listen, the kid has the ability to totally change the way that they run their offense, which is probably music to Pat Shermer's ears, because as much as he probably respected Eli, he knew that the way he plays, he's done. Right, he is.
And what we're seeing across the NFL is a youth movement at the quarterback position. We are in a transition right now at the quarterback spot. This was the first Sunday in years that we did not have Eli Manning, Ben Roethlisberger, or Drew Brees under center for their respective teams.
Yep.
We are in a new wave of quarterbacks, whether it's Teddy Bridgewater getting the start in place of Brees, or whether it's, I'm not going to say Luke Falk, but you understand that the Jets out of a rookie quarterback. Right. Lamar Jackson appears to be the real deal. Patrick Mahomes is doing what he's doing. We are in a new era of quarterbacks in the NFL.
It's time. It happens every couple of years. I mean, 1984 was probably the greatest draft class of quarterbacks in the history of the league. And I got a chance to play against a lot of those guys that came out that year.
Even Todd Blackledge.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you turn around, you look at Ben and Eli and all of these guys, who kind of fall into that next wave, of good quarterbacks. And now we're into 2019, and we're definitely looking at, that ladder, that second wave of quarterbacks on their way out, and the new regime coming in. Guys that's, no-look passes and, throwing across their body and, with rifle arms, that will dare to make throws that no other generation of quarterbacks would ever dare to make. Guys who can make plays with their legs and clown, linebackers and DBs in the open field. It's a different day, man. It's really a different day at quarterback, and I like the evolution.
Good.
Quite frankly, I love the evolution, because I think it's pretty boring when a quarterback just sits in the pocket and you know where he's going to be. As a defense coordinator, that you can dominate that guy, because if you can cause him to hold on the ball a half a tick longer than he wants to, he's going to be right where you want him to be. It's hard to call the defense with a guy who can get out and make plays, a guy who can use his leg, a guy who can be just as prolific and dangerous with the ball in his hands outside the pocket as he is in the pocket.
But sometimes it could be to the team's detriment. Remember, this is Hit 'em High on Facebook Live. Be sure to share, because every share is going to get $1 donated to a great cause, the Malcolm Jenkins Foundation. So share us. Send your comments in as well, because we will read them. Seth will answer them. Everett will answer them. I'll answer them. We're going to be sure to get to all of your comments on Facebook Live. We're right here, the Parks Casino. It's a beautiful atmosphere. Hit 'em High, brought to you by King's Mark and Cabinets. I mentioned it's a detriment to the team because, like what we saw last night on Sunday Night Football, Baker Mayfield, sometimes when he tries to get out of the pocket, right, he doesn't allow his receivers time to get their routes developed, and it leads to a broken play and a play that winds up being a negative play. That's something that bothers me a little bit with some of these guys that look to run too much.
They just got to know when to get out of the pocket and when to stay in. Okay. I mean, there was a lot of times last night that Baker didn't have to run.
Agreed.
All he had to do. There's a difference between seeing the rush and getting out too early, and seeing the rush and being able to manipulate the pocket. Like Ben Roethlisberger might be the greatest quarterback that I've ever seen that manipulates the pocket, who can move a step here or move a step there. Tom Brady's become extremely proficient at it, in the latter half of his career. Baker's got to learn that. Right now, I see a little bit of regression with Baker Mayfield, and it's concerning for me because, I said way back when he started talking about Duke Johnson's, situation, I'm like, dude, just be quiet, man.
Right.
Just you don't talk about somebody else's desire. You don't talk about other guys, other teammates as a quarterback. Take it from what you see the greats do. Tom Brady don't run around flapping his gums and talking about. Karma sometimes, is a what, And for Baker, I think he's getting a little bit of it. You got to realize, you only started a handful of games last year. It's not like, you've been in the game for 5 years and you've seen it all and done it all. You're still learning, and you got a bullseye on your back.
I was about to say, different when you got them expectations. Nobody expected the Browns to win anything last year. Now you got OBJ, you got Nick Chubb, you got weapons around you. People are looking for y'all to win and make some noise, and right now, they probably are teetering between second and third team in their own division.
See, and it's problematic for me too, because John Dorsey and Freddie Kitchens, we just want Baker to be we just want Baker to be Baker. No. Don't work that way. Okay? He's got to pay his dues just like everybody else. You give him the autonomy and you give him the ability to run his mouth and bump his gums, rein him in. Rein him in and tell him to shut the hell up.
Agreed.
And just play football. You don't need to talk about what everybody's afraid of what we're going to be, and I'm feeling dangerous. Shut up, man. You play quarterback. You play quarterback, man. Shut your mouth and just play. And they're allowing this to happen. And to me, it's problematic. It's just going to get worse. But he's getting a little bit of humble pie right now.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that was the Sunday night game. The Rams go into Cleveland. They come away with the victory. We have an NFC matchup on Monday Night Football tonight. The Bears and the Redskins. And, of course, the Eagles play on Thursday night. We're going to break that down when we return.
What a night.
The new Parx Casino $10 million sportsbook changes everything. It's a whole new ballgame at Parx Casino. Watch every single game and sporting event you want on our custom-built 154-foot wide, $1.5 million screen, capable of showing 36 events at once. Bet all the hot action and enjoy tap after tap of amazing craft beer, cocktails, and pub food favorites. Your entire game day destination is here for you and your friends. Sportsbook, beer garden, and Liberty Bell Gastropub. Parx Casino, bet with the best.
All right, so coming into this week's game, we always do our weekly breakdown of what the line for the game looks like. This week, you've got the Eagles coming into Lambeau on a Thursday night short week. The Eagles are +4. Now, for those of you who don't follow, the Eagles are 0-3 this year against the spread, which, considering they're also coming into a short week against a team that's red hot in the Packers, I don't like them. I think that the Packers are going to win this game outright. The Eagles are going to drop to 1-3, which means that, 4 points. Listen, 10 points. I think the Eagles get blown out here. I like Aaron Rodgers. The Packers are 49-30 under Aaron Rodgers since 2008 against the spread as home favorites. You have to be concerned about the fact that the Eagles defensively do not look very good. Also, the over-under for this game for the entire game is 46. Thursday night games typically don't play very, very high. Do I think that they stay under the 46? I do. I think they stay under 46. I think that the final score in the game is 24-10.
Right now, 69% of the public bets are coming in on the Green Bay Packers at minus that 4. We see Thursday Night Football, Seth, always favors the home team because the road team has one less day of preparation. They have to adjust their practice schedule. It's a challenge for the Eagles, but it's also the best thing coming off a loss.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you always want to get back on the horse, so to speak. And, if you got to play a Thursday game, you got to play a Thursday game. I personally think it's absolutely insane, but,
we can agree with that.
The same thing that, the Eagles have to prepare for, the Green Bay Packers have to prepare for, in the same manner. This is going to be an interesting game because, for the Eagles, I really feel like, they're at a crossroads here. They can ill afford. They're already 2 games behind the Dallas Cowboys, in the conference, and and Dallas is leading the division, and the way Dallas is looking, it doesn't look like they're going to be able to catch them. But to go down 1-3 and have to try to fight back for a wild card spot again, with all the expectations, this is a pivotal game, and I listened to Doug Peterson last night. He says, people asked him, whether this game was a defining game, and my answer was yes and no. No, because, there's 13 games left to kind of get it right. Yes, because you're going to be without Alshon Jeffries and Deshaun Jackson, I think, again this week, and, Nelson Aguilar and Arcega-Whiteside and Mac Hollins, and all of these guys are going to have to figure out a way to step up their game. And can they do it against a Green Bay Packer team that's miles and miles better defensively than what they were? I don't know that they're better offensively, but their defense is playing so well that it makes the offense look that much better.
Aaron Rodgers is playing really slow football compared to what we used to seeing from him, and they're 3-0. Literally no pressure from him.
Well, let's get to our Kings marquees to the game, and I'll start, guys. To me, it's about limiting the secondary options for Aaron Rodgers. Devontae Adams is going to be great. We know that. But you don't want Marquez Valdez-Scantling to beat you. You don't want Geronimo Allison to beat you. You can have Aaron Jones run. You don't want Jamal Williams to beat you. If the Eagles can limit the secondary options for Aaron Rodgers, defensively, they might have a chance in this game.
My key is going to be the same key has been for the last 3 weeks. The Eagles need to run the football. You're going to Lambeau. You are on the road. Run the ball. Give Jordan Howard the ball. Change the way that the Packers are going to come out and play against you. Because that money that they spent in the offseason, which is uncustomary for them, on defense, has put them in a position where their defense is very aggressive. Kenny Clark and the other guys up there, they're getting after quarterbacks. You run the ball, you neutralize that pass rush, and then you give yourself a chance to finally, like you said, Seth, open up the playbook and be more diverse.
Mike Pettin is a Rex Ryan disciple, which means that he loves to bring pressure. Okay, so he's not going to sit back and just let Carson and this defense do what they want to do. So I agree with you. My key is they're going to have to run the football, and I'm not so sure that Doug Peterson really wants to run the football or whether he'll make the adjustment to run the football. And if he doesn't, Carson's going to have a tough night because you're going to have two backup wide receivers, a guy whose confidence is waving at the other wide receiver spot, and one tight end, which limits them in 12 personnel, that still ain't 100%. I don't care what they say, Goddard ain't 100%. And if you make the decision that you want to go into Lambeau and throw the ball 45, 50 times, you're going to have some problems. I'm a major proponent, when you play against great quarterbacks, of minimizing, shortening the game and minimizing possessions. Okay, the average possession is maybe 10 to 12 possessions a game. They got to figure out a way to minimize this to 8 to 12 possessions and limit the amount of possessions that Aaron Rodgers has the ball. And the only way you're going to do that is you got to be a little more run heavy.
Agreed. Work that clock, and that's the key to an Eagles victory over the Green Bay Packers on Thursday night.
Well, listen, before we get out of here, we want to thank you all so much for watching Hit 'em High. Continue to share the show all the way up until game time Thursday, where every single share that you guys do is going to get $1 donated to the Malcolm Jenkins Foundation. And always tune in next Monday at noon for our next episode of Hit 'em High, where something is always new and everything is always new.
Hit 'em low.